Topic: Selection tests. Subtopics: First, meaning and purpose of selection tests. Second, objectives of selection tests. Third, classification and types of selection tests. Fourth, ability tests, meaning and types. Meaning and purpose of selection tests. The selection tests aim at measuring such skills and abilities in a worker that are decided by job analysis to be essential for successful job performance. A test is an instrument designed to measure selected psychological factors. The basic assumption underlies the use of tests in personnel selection is that the individuals are different in their job-related abilities and skills, and that these skills can be adequately and accurately measured for comparison. A great number of human abilities are complex and interrelated. Hence, these have to be understood in association with each other. Cronbach defines it as, a test is a systematic procedure for comparing the behavior of two or more persons. Milton M. Blum opines, a test is a sample of an aspect of an individual's behavior, performance and attitude. Tests used in selection can be classified into 5 categories, namely: first, achievement tests. Achievement tests measure the job knowledge of the applicants in the areas such as marketing, HR and economics. When an applicant claims to know something, an achievement test is given to measure how well he/she knows it. It is for this reason that achievement tests are also known as proficiency tests or performance tests. Achievement tests are a refinement of the work sample technique and are used to measure what the applicant actually can do and what tasks he/she can perform right now. Adaptability tests. Abstract reasoning tests. Stanford Binet scales, Miller analogies test and Purdue test for machinists and machine operators are some of the examples of such tests. Trade tests are the most common type of achievement tests given, for example, in a typing test. Matter to be typed is provided to the candidate, and the time taken by the candidate in typing that matter, as also the errors made by him/her, are noted down, and thus his/her proficiency in typing is measured. Similar tests are available in shorthand, calculating machines, operating calculators, simple mechanical equipment, dictating and transcribing apparatus. Second, aptitude tests. Aptitude tests are also known as potential ability tests and specific cognitive tests, and are used to measure the latent ability of a candidate to learn a given job if he/she is given the required training. Aptitude tests have special significance where the new recruit has little or very less experience along the lines of the job opening. Specific aptitude tests have to be designed for jobs that require mechanical, clerical, musical, academic, linguistic, motor capacities and abilities. Bennett test of mechanical comprehension and the Stenquist mechanical aptitude test are some of the examples of popular mechanical aptitude tests. Aptitude tests for clerical jobs lay emphasis mainly on arithmetic, handwriting, spellings, vocabulary, checking and so on. Aptitude tests help in detecting peculiarities or defects in the applicant's sensory or intellectual capacity. Third, interest tests. Interest in a job or task contributes to success on the job. A person interested in his/her job is likely to do better than one who is indifferent or uninterested. Interest tests have been designed to discover a person's field of interest and to identify the kind of work that will satisfy him/her. They are in a sense inventories of the likes and dislikes of the people of some occupations. Although the interest tests have been mostly standardized, some organizations have developed tests to suit their own requirements, especially when there is a continuing demand for a large number of new personnel for a single job. Such developed tests are also known as tailor-made tests. Most widely used interest scales are CUDA preference record, strong vocational interest blank, mechanical reasoning test, and so on. Fourth, personality tests. These tests aim at measuring the basic makeup or characteristics of an individual. They assess his/her introversion, motivation, emotional reactions, emotional maturity, stability, mood, value system, ability to adjust, interpersonal relations, self-image, self-confidence, ambition, tact, optimism, decisiveness, sociability, objectivity, patience, fear, distrust, suspicion, judgment, dominance, impulsiveness, integrity, stability, and so on. Industrial psychologists usually emphasize the Big Five personality dimensions as they apply to personnel testing. Fifth, intelligence tests. These tests aim at measuring the general level of intelligence of the applicant. This is done by measuring the IQ of the applicant. In addition to this, they also measure a range of abilities such as numerical ability, vocabulary, memory, and verbal fluency. However, intelligence is usually measured with individually administered tests such as the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale, Wonderlic Personnel Test, Stanford Binet Test, California Test of Mental Maturity, Adult Level, Kaufman Adolescent and Adult Intelligence Test, Minnesota Paper Form Board Test, MPFB Comprehensive Test of Verbal Intelligence, Wide Range Intelligence Test, and Slotin Intelligence Test. Tests are also divided into the following three categories. First, objective tests. These tests measure neurotic tendencies, self-sufficiency, dominance, submission, and self-control. Second, projective tests. The candidate is asked to project his or her own interpretation into certain standard stimulus situations. The way he or she responds to these stimuli depends on his/her own values, motives, and personality. Example: Rorschach-Blot test and thematic apperception test. Third, situation tests. These tests measure the applicant's reaction when he or she is placed in a peculiar situation. Normally, in a leaderless group, problem is posed and solution is to be found out. A situation test requires the examinees to respond to situations representative of jobs. Video-based simulation is a situational test in which an examinee responds to video simulations of a realistic job situation. Three main advantages. Various steps of selection process, including selection tests, are meant to solicit information about the candidates so as to arrive at a decision to select the most desirable candidates out of the several available. Since only some information is available from other sources like application forms, references, etc., selection tests are used to solicit more information about the candidates. The use of selection tests has the following advantages. First, selection tests are standardized and unbiased methods of soliciting information about the prospective employees. Thus, a person who does not get selected on the basis of selection tests cannot argue for the partiality and selection process. It is to be noted that in many organizations, impartiality in selection process is of prime importance, like public sector organizations. Second, selection tests can be used to weed out the large number of candidates who may not be considered for employment in the organization. Normally, organizations receive applications from large number of candidates seeking jobs in the organizations. They all meet the basic requirements of the jobs, but all cannot be called for interview because it is a very time-consuming process. Selection tests will provide the cutoff point above which candidates can be called for interview. Thus, the test will save a lot of time and money. Third, the tests are able to uncover the qualities and potentials of prospective employees which cannot be known by other methods, including personal interview. Since the people are taken in the organization not only for the present jobs but they are promoted over the period of time. Tests provide good opportunities to test their potentials for such promotions also. Selection tests. Limitations. Selection tests may provide some useful information, but they suffer from some limitations also. Two such limitations are quite important, which suggest that use of tests should be supplemented by other means of soliciting information about the candidates. First, selection tests cannot make 100% prediction of an individual's on-the-job success. At best, they just reveal that those who have scored above the cutoff point, other things being equal, will be more successful than those who have scored below the cutoff point. Therefore, it is desirable to use tests only as supplementary method of selection. Second, these are suitable when there is large number of candidates for limited number of jobs or positions. If the number of candidates is small, the use of tests is not economical. In such a case, it is desirable to select persons on the basis of interview only. Besides these two limitations, many people criticize tests on the basis that these discriminate against the deprived classes because affluent classes can know better how to defeat the tests. However, this limitation can be overcome by suitable design and administration of tests. A further criticism is put against the test that these invade privacy of people because these tests put many questions on the personal life of the candidates. Selection tests. 6 main precautions in using selection tests. Various limitations of selection tests suggest that these should be used cautiously. Test results can improve decision-making regarding selection of employees, and as a result, organizations can select the best possible candidates if the following precautions are taken in using the tests. First, a test can be effective only when it has validity. The validity of a test is the degree to which it measures what it intends to measure. Thus, a valid test is one which accurately predicts the criteria of job success. In the absence of validity of test, it may give wrong result and the persons selected on its basis may be even inferior to those who have been rejected. Second, another feature which is important in a test is its reliability. The reliability of a test is the consistency with which it yields the same scores throughout a series of measurements. Thus, if a test has high reliability, a person who is tested a second or third time with the same test and under the same conditions will obtain the same result. Third, norms should be developed as a source of reference on all tests used in selection. Norms are standardized scores that help translate raw scores into a comparative statement. Some companies use minimum marks obtained in a test while others use cutoff score for selecting candidates for further selection process. Norms can be fixed on the basis of success or failure of employees in the organization selected on the basis of similar tests. Fourth, tests should not be used merely to decide cutoff point for weeding out the candidates. Instead, the test administrators should ensure that tests have validity and therefore, these can play an important role in the selection process. In order to take maximum advantage of tests, proper weight can be given to scores in the tests. This may help in avoiding personal biases in the selection considerably. Fifth, test administration, scoring, and interpretation require technical competence and training in testing. Therefore, tests should be handled by properly trained and competent people. In fact, some of the standardized tests insist that their use be restricted to registered approved users only so that these are not used for the selection, which may give horrible results. Sixth, the tests should be used as an additional factor in selection process and should not be treated as the sole basis for selecting or rejecting a candidate. If other sources of information like application forms, references, and interviews are used along with test scores, decision-making regarding the selection of candidates is improved. This is the reason that organizations use a combination of different methods in selection process. Process for developing a testing program. Step-by-step process. When an organization decides to use tests as an instrument for selection process, it must develop a test program which includes the choice of different tests and administering those tests so that the test results are optimal. Development of testing program and its implementation requires careful planning, analysis, and experiment which calls for specific skills. If the HR department is not adequately prepared for this, it is advisable to engage industrial psychologists for the purpose. Step number 1. Defining job performance criteria and predictors. The basic objective of selection tests is to find a match between a job and job holder so that the job is performed effectively. For this purpose, the job holder must possess certain traits or qualities. However, what those qualities are and the degree to which these qualities must be possessed by the prospective job holder must be ascertained precisely. Job description and job specification are the instruments which provide information for this. If the job specification has been prepared in detail indicating various traits, these can be taken as predictors of job performance. It implies that those who possess these traits tend to show better performance than those who do not. Step number 2. Choosing tests for measuring traits. After determining the traits that must be possessed by the job holders, the type of tests that are likely to measure these traits must be chosen. In choosing the tests, it must be ensured that these are valid and reliable, that is, they measure the traits specified and measure these accurately. In order to use the test for selection purposes, it is desirable to administer these tests on the present employees to determine their validity. Apart from validity and reliability, other factors which should be considered in the choice of tests are ease of administration, costs involved, and evaluation of results. Step number 3. Administering tests. When the tests are chosen and their validity and reliability are established, these tests can be administered to test candidates' traits. In administering the tests, care should be taken that physical and psychological situations are conducive and the candidates are at ease to show their usual performance. Step number 4. Analyzing the results of the tests. When testing is over, the results of the tests should be calculated. Most of the tests are objective type, with each answer of a question predicts the possession or non-possession of a particular trait. These answers may be assigned points to obtain total score. If facilities exist, calculation of results should be computerized to quicken the process. After obtaining the test scores, these may be analyzed, interpreted, and used in selection process. In using the test results, there may be situations when a candidate may have consistently high scores on all the tests, or inversely, he may have low scores consistently. Not much problem comes in this situation, as higher scorers may be considered for selection while lower scorers may be weeded out. In another situation, a candidate may have outperformed in some tests but underperformed in others. In such a case, taking aggregate of all the tests for the purpose of comparison may pose a problem. In order to solve this problem, either a cut-off point is taken as the basis to ensure that the candidate has at least the minimum degree of all the desirable traits, or weight may be provided on the basis of relative importance of different desirable traits. In the weight system, the test scores are multiplied by the weights to obtain aggregate, which may become comparable. Ability test meaning and types. Ability tests or aptitude tests are standardized methods of assessing an individual's performance in different work-related tasks or situations. They measure potential rather than just academic performance, and frequently used by employers as indicators of how people will perform in a work setting. Ability tests provide valuable insight